afternoon, everyone. It is Susannah here with you today, talking about one of my top, probably 3 favorite topics, and that is utilizing the Twitter platform. So welcome and hello to everyone who is joining us today. We have some participants here live, and there will also be some of you watching this either as a recording later on or on YouTube. So hello and welcome. If you aren't here live, feel free to pop questions through via social media, such as Twitter, or if you are here with me today, feel free to pop comments or questions into the chat box during the session, and we can have a chat about any issues raised at the end and address how we can help your business if your ideal platform is Twitter. Anyway, let's get into this fun topic and dive right in. So a little bit about me. I hated Twitter with a passion till around 2013, 2014. And I just don't get it, which annoyed me. So I quit all my other social media platforms and decided I'd do Twitter until I understood it, learned how to do it, and just got it. And I spent a year digging into Twitter, understanding the conversations that went on and how to utilize it properly. And it was a great learning experience, and it is a really different platform than most other social media. And that year taught me so much that I realized Twitter was actually the favorite platform out of all the social media that I'm on. So I'm so glad I did that. However, in most cases, it's not something where you want to make it your major platform unless your business's target audience is really hanging out there all the time. So at the moment, I have over 50,000 followers on my personal Twitter. I also have worked with businesses where we've utilized Twitter for them as well. I think I have a pregnancy site which has 5,000 or 6,000 followers on Twitter as well. So it's a bit of fun to work with them, see what works, see how we can generate new collaborations, either business-wise or personally, and engage in some fun conversations, see what's trending, stay up to date, and lots of other things. Now, I'm a digital generalist. What that means is I'm reasonably good at nearly everything when it comes to digital, but I don't really specialize. And I am a big fan of organic. So I'm good at anything that doesn't cost money, but just costs time and training to understand, learn, and put into action. Because honestly, unless you're a business who has a big marketing budget, you don't have money to throw at tons of AdWords and Facebook ads and all these other things of money. So I'm a big fan of doing things organically until you grow large enough to invest more into the marketing sector in terms of budget. Now, I've worked across a wide range of industries. I first got into digital in around 2009 when I started writing online. Then I got into social media and started a page that went viral, which taught me a lot about social media, what to do and what not to do. And I ended up starting a website which grew to 500,000 views a month. So for me, I just love gaining targeted followers and targeted traffic because I'm all about those numbers and then converting them into whether it's a follower, whether it's a sale, whatever your goal is for that person. Now, I've also studied journalism and marketing, and I will say that journalism is probably one of my favorite things I ever studied, not because it taught me how to work in journalism, but because it made it so much simpler to summarize things in a single sentence. So when you're studying journalism, you understand how to take a complex idea and turn it into a single sentence. And that's also useful, of course, over on Twitter, where you've only got a limited number of characters to say whatever's on your mind. So journalism, if nothing else, it taught me to be very succinct when it comes to my written words, although as you can probably tell by now, when it comes to me talking, I often have a lot to say. Anyway, let's continue on to the next section. So what is Twitter? A lot of people are like, oh, it's a place with, or it's a place with the little bird and lots of people talking, and it's very confusing. And well, all of those are some version of Twitter that people know about, but they're not necessarily all that Twitter is. It's much more than that. So no, it's not a bird watching site, but it is a lot more. A little bit about Twitter. you have a limitation on characters, which is double what it used to be. Back when I first joined Twitter, you had 140 characters, which is barely a sentence to summarize your thought. These days, it is now at 280 characters, which means that you can expand a little more about what you've got to say, which I wasn't a huge fan at first, but I found it is really good because you can start a conversation and dig a little deeper and get people talking and excited about topic. Now, it is all about online news and social networking and microblogging and citizen journalism. The reason it's so big when it comes to citizen journalism is because there's so many ways to track ongoing events that are happening right now. So, for instance, during the bushfires in Australia, people could tweet mentioning keywords around the bushfires and say something about a certain street being in the way of a bushfire, or a certain family, a certain location needing help. And the great thing is, even if they had hardly any followers, the way Twitter works is combining all the tweets around one topic and allowing people to see them in real time, which of course means that you can see things from people on the ground as opposed to someone who's up in a news chopper or somewhere safe away from the fire, who may not know all the things that are going on. So Twitter really gives people an opportunity to report live about what they're seeing in real time, which I absolutely love. So another thing is it's really popular among celebrities and everyday people. I mean, a lot of people are aware there are celebrities on there, but they don't realize that everyday people can get on there and really learn a lot, share a lot, collaborate a lot as well. So the great thing about dealing with celebrities on there, it's much more likely you actually get engagement back. Often you'll see celebrities go on there and actually reply to tweets because there is a lot less in terms of privacy gating, and it's a lot easier to engage in conversation there than, say, a traditional platform like Facebook, where it just takes so much work to go through an entire thread. Twitter has different ways of accessing that data, which can make it easier to have conversations with anyone in any walks of life, whether they're celebrities or someone in America who has a shared interest, you name it. Anyway, that's a little bit about Twitter, but why is it so popular? Well, some reasons include scan-friendly content. As I mentioned earlier, when I studied journalism, I learned to take a long topic and really put it into a single thought in a tweet. And great thing about Twitter is because the content is really short, you can grab pieces of information from multiple topics just every time you log into Twitter. So instead of having giant posts with tons of photos and tons of writing where you've got to absorb them, say the way you would on Facebook, where you might only see 6 posts before you're like, oh, I'm sick of scrolling and seeing so many ads. Twitter does have ads, but all the content is shorter in bite-sized pieces. Now, that means that you can jump on Twitter just once a day for 5 minutes and you can get an idea of what people you're following and what people in the news and what's in your world or their world. And if you're following the right people and seeing the right content in your feed, you can get an overall view of your industry or a particular topic you're following in a very, very short amount of time, which I really love. Another big one is lack of privacy walls. So over on Facebook, you have so much in terms of privacy. You have personal profiles with friends, and you have community groups where you can't see the content unless you're actually a member of the community. And there are so many ways to limit who sees what. Twitter, on the other hand, does allow you to hide your content, but most people don't do that because that really limits who they can engage with. So most of Twitter is open. Anyone can have a thought and share it with the world, and there is a chance that anyone can answer it and start a conversation and add their own 2 cents to the discussion, which, yes, there are risks with that, but it also means many benefits because you can make some great connections on Twitter that you might not be able to make on more private platforms out there. Another one, as I mentioned, is Twitter is really time friendly. When you are over on Facebook, you may see that a friend posted about a party they were having on the weekend. You might not see it till Monday. That is the awful thing I've found about Facebook in particular. You often get updates that are days after the event happened, and you might miss out on things that would have been something interesting for you to attend. Twitter, on the other hand, although they do have algorithms in place, you can see content as it happens as well, and you've got very easy access to edit how you're seeing the content in terms of top content that's popular or latest content in terms of what is happening right now on this topic, which means that you can jump on and see things in real time, which not all platforms do a very good job of offering. And last but not least is quick connections. Because you are talking with people in very short tweets, you can quickly say something and go, hey, love that tweet, sounds really interesting. Can I send you a direct message? And you can start a whole conversation with that person around whatever the topic is and go back and forth. And I've built some really fun, interesting relationships and collaborations that way. So, conversation, well, it's probably the leading force of Twitter. And the great thing that I love about Twitter is the fact that every single tweet, even when you're replying to someone else, can stand alone and be retweeted and reshared with everyone as if it stands all by itself, which is fantastic. Now, here is an example over on the left. And Old Spice has actually tweeted something about fire sauce being made with real fire. As you can see below it, Taco Bell has replied with a comment about deodorant being made of real spices. And so the original tweet from Old Spice had 610 retweets. Taco Bell replying had 937 retweets, which means that 937 people saw that retweeted into their feed, which is even more than the original post. And there was another comment underneath, is your bell really made of tacos? And it had 15 retweets. So just jumping into a conversation that someone else is having can be a great way to get seen as well. So a lot of platforms, it's all about making your own original content, talking at people. Twitter isn't about talking at people as much as it is engaging in conversations around your topics and adding your thoughts, opinions, humor, whatever it is, something that adds to the conversation will get people interested and sharing your words with their audience. So when it comes to having conversations, it's important to be retweetable. For instance, if someone asks you a question like, what do you think of this color? Saying it's good, well, that doesn't give any context. Saying a sentence in reply instead of encapsulating it in utilizing the question to make it a standalone tweet, well, that's not going to get you the engagement that would if you really put it all together. So quick example here, say someone tweeted that trees are important. Saying, yes, I agree about trees being important. You're not adding your thoughts or any additional information about trees and their importance to the conversation. You're literally just mimicking and just agreeing with the original tweet. However, if you put it in such a way that you're agreeing while adding extra thoughts and extra inferences to the tweet that you're making, you're much more likely to engage people who go, hey, that's a great thought that you're having there. So yes, I agree trees are important for long-term health and sustainability in cities because, and you could add a reason. So you're building on the conversation and giving other people a chance to get more than just the original tweet, but actually get more additional information as they read through the conversations. And the great thing is people do read the conversations. They'll see an initial tweet and they'll go, that's interesting. I want to know more about the topic. And they'll read all the different replies from different people in their Twitter feed, and they'll often engage with them and retweet them to their own followers. So conversations really are key when it comes to Twitter. Another great thing is trends. Twitter is big on trends, and it is also a great way to tap into different trends that are happening that might be relevant for you and your business. So as you can see here, Australian trends at the moment are, well, top 3 are sport, and then you've got First Nations trending as well. And all of these trends are based on how many people are tweeting. And when you click on these, you can actually see tweets mentioning these keywords. So even if the person mentioning those keywords doesn't have a lot of followers, they may still appear in these trending lists. And that gives people a chance to engage with them and then follow them and then be part of their conversation. But there are lots of interesting ways to engage with trends. And Twitter will also give you a For You feed, as you can see at the top left, where you can see trends that it thinks will relate to your interests. You've also got news and entertainment and things like that. So you can really look at what people are talking about and join the conversations. Now, hashtags. Hashtags really got their start on Twitter. I believe there was a man who actually tweeted the idea and it took off way back when on Twitter. So hashtags are a way of putting things into groups. Here's an example over on the left. And on Engineers Day, you can use the hashtag Engineers Day, and you see there's 140 tweets in the last hour, which means to some degree it is trending. And this is something where if you had an engineering business and you wanted to add your thoughts to the conversation, you could jump on that hashtag and utilize that to really engage with other people in the industry in a business-to-business way. It can also be an opportunity to engage with journalists who make up a large segment of Twitter because it's so easy to get the latest trending real-time news. And often there'll be journalists looking at trending topics, trying to find tweets or interesting opinions which they can use in media stories on the topic, which is, of course, a great opportunity if you're in business to get your business name out there through free marketing and PR. But at the top left is another little feature that I'd love you to check out, and that's the fact that you can do some really cool things with exact searches on Twitter. If you want to search for only Engineers Day hashtag tweets in Sydney, you can do that. Enter as many specific separated words as you want, and you can narrow down any type of conversation. So Twitter does have a pretty decent search functionality. It's not Google, but it is pretty good if you want to narrow things down by locations, narrow things down by keywords, you name it, you can probably do it. So it's worth doing a good search if you're looking for some conversations to dig into. Utilize whatever words you think are relevant that people would use in those types of conversations. Anyway, hashtags are key, but a quick note about that. Generally, I recommend no more than 1 to 3 hashtags. People are following you on Twitter and engaging with you on Twitter to get your thoughts and opinions. If half your tweet is just a giant list of hashtags, that's not offering value to your feed. You want to offer value and then choose a few hashtags that are really highly relevant to your tweet. If you're using generic ones, then and every generic one you can think of, that's not adding value at all. So keep them 1 to 3 minimal where possible. Now, just a quick note on controversy. Because there aren't any privacy walls, anyone can engage with you and share their own opinion, which can be a good thing, but of course it can be a bad thing as well. So it is one of those sites where I do recommend using caution if you're stepping into any conversations that might be on controversial matters. So if there is something, say, in politics or related to a racism issue, unless you actually know what you're talking about, don't just step in there and make a grand sweeping statement or generalization. It will probably get you in trouble and you might get quite a few people not very happy and sharing it with their networks, which means you could go viral in the wrong way. So especially when it comes to business, you want to maintain your professionalism and your boundaries and only talk about things that are relevant in the correct tone, in the correct voice, and don't be tone deaf. So do take care when it comes to controversy. And that is the thing. You can have an account with only 100 followers and you can tweet something and just one of those followers could retweet you to a larger network and suddenly hundreds of people are having their opinion on what you've got to say. So do take care if you're going into the controversial territory on Twitter. So next question, and really important if you're trying to decide if your business should be on Twitter, is who is using Twitter? Well, good question, and it might surprise you. Here are just a few of the types of communities that you can find on Twitter and the topics. And this is in no way an exhaustive list. There are some other fantastic little community groups on there and big community groups on there. Yeah, but here is an overview of the ones that I've come across or find most prevalent. Number one is startups. There are a lot of startup businesses and people in tech who are really engaging on Twitter as part of the startup community, looking for funding, looking for engagement, looking for collaboration. And that's a great community to be part of if you're in the startup area. Agriculture is a big one. Now, Australia in particular, we have a lot of farmers who are on Twitter. So they often go on there to share information about their crops, to find out about the latest tech when it comes to farming equipment and so on. So if you're in the agricultural industry, Twitter is probably number one for you to really engage with that community. Another one is journalism. There are a lot of journalists on Twitter because they can get the latest trending news right now, which of course is important when you're meeting a deadline. So you can often engage with journalists, get seen in the media for your comments and so on. And they also have hashtags you can engage with them through. For instance, journalists use hashtag journo request when they're putting out a request for a source. Now, by that, I mean they might say something like, I'm looking for a farmer to comment on the latest weather conditions, and they need to be someone in Queensland. If you're a Queensland farmer, you could then reply to that and go, hey, I'm open for an interview, and you've formed a connection there with the journalist and got a media opportunity. So there are lots of journalists on there, often tweeting, often engaging, often looking for stories. Now, another big one, and the one that Twitter's probably best known for, is politics. Of course, politics can be a bit of a controversial area, so do be careful. There are some very strongly opinionated people on there as well. One that's less controversial, usually, is history, and there are quite a few history accounts that tweet things like photos and information about different events in history. Sports is probably a really big one, as you saw on that previous slide, where a lot of the trending topics were around sports. Anytime there is a big sporting event, people really talk about it in real time and comment on different actions taken in the gameplay, talk about different players and so on. And people read that because people who are trying to follow the game don't always know what's going on, or they may have missed something, and they can see it live tweeted on Twitter. Now, another group, and this is a really supportive community, is the writing community. They're always helping each other. They're always resharing each other's content and their books and helping them meet new people. And it's a very collaborative community. So if you're an author or you're a blogger and so on, then it's probably a great community to be part of. Now, here's one that many people aren't aware of unless they're in them: fan accounts. So what that means is, say, you like One Direction or you like Taylor Swift, there are entire communities with accounts built around that celebrity, only sharing content around it. And they're everyday people. They could be 15, they could be 25, they could be 35. And they are engaging those communities, discussing the latest releases from their favorite artists and so on. So yeah, I would recommend, unless you really understand the artists they're talking about, probably avoid that community too. They can get a little angry if you insult their favorite person. Now, another one is trending news. Of course, because Twitter is all about real time, you can get a lot of real time updates, whether from people on the ground or again from journalists and news outlets. Another one is mental health. There is quite a big mental health community around various disorders and support for them on Twitter. Another big one is sustainability. So when it comes to renewables or electric vehicles, there are a lot of people who are part of that Twitter community where they can discuss the viability of new ideas. They can talk about options for installation and all those kind of things. So that's quite a large community too. And one that is huge as well, last but definitely not least, is live events and shows. Now, the reason for this is because with real-time tweeting, people can see the events through text as they happen. So say, for instance, there might be a concert or there might be a conference. People can live tweet all the things that the speakers are saying or different things that happen at the event, and people who aren't there can stay updated even if they can't attend in person. So Twitter's really big for doing live updates of live events. Really fun to watch sometimes, and it's honestly it's one of those areas where sometimes I'll watch the live tweets on Twitter instead of watching a TV show, simply because, well, I'm probably going to get way more interesting insights on Twitter. Now, onto the type of people themselves in terms of demographics. Statistically speaking, 63.7% are male. So there is a larger male demographic on the platform. And 80% are affluent millennials, with 77% earning 75,000 plus. So a lot of the people on there, because they are very passionate about their niche, often are very further along in their career or their education, and often have very strong views on different topics that they're engaging with on Twitter. So that can be a good thing or a bad thing. But if you are targeting people who are in a certain bracket, then it might be the place for you. Now, 93%, and this is a great stat for businesses, are open to brands getting involved if it's done in the right way. So if you're going on there going, buy my product, that's probably not the right way. But later on, I'll show you some tweets from big brands and how they're engaging without being pushy and salesy. Because if you're pushy and salesy, you're not adding to the conversation, you're just yelling at them to do something. So how do you craft a great tweet? Well, there is no simple answer to that, unfortunately, but there are some things you can do to increase your chances of having a tweet that people want to engage with and want to join that conversation for. So here are a few things that I've found work well for Twitter. An informed or well thought out opinion. Well, obviously you need to have something that makes you go, I agree with that. Because if you tweet something that's not well thought out, you're more likely to have people go, that's really silly. Why did you say that? Valuable new data or insights. If you have any insights into something, especially if it's something you've discovered, say you're in a certain industry and you've got some stats come out that surprise you, share them on Twitter. People love learning new things, new insights, new ways of understanding stuff. That's what Twitter's all about. Content that stands alone. Now that's an important one because each tweet might be the only thing that someone ever sees from you. So you need to make sure that when you do tweet something, it very much summarizes that thought or idea. You can absolutely add extra ideas to it that relate, but each one needs to be able to stand on its own if someone's going to only reshare that single tweet. Tapping into trends and news topics. Well, that's another big one because trends are huge on Twitter. And if there is a trending topic and you come along and add your 2 cents in a new and insightful way, then that's going to get you engagement. And last but not least, single ideas or thoughts. Now, this is not mandatory. There are some cases where someone might tweet a list of things or a few different thoughts, but generally speaking, Twitter is about one quick, succinct thought, and having too many things going on in one tweet just dilutes the original intention, and I recommend just sticking with one idea whenever possible. So what types of tweets are people doing? Well, there's a lot, just like every other social media platform. Humor's a big one though. There's a lot of jokes, usually about trending topics. There are a lot of quotes. People love retweeting quotes because they're interesting, they're quick, they summarize a thought on something. So sharing quotes works quite well. Polls. People love voting on things and adding their opinions. So polls are quite a big thing on there as well, which of course be great for market research if you're looking for more data from Twitter. Conversations, as I said before, anything that's a conversation starter, throwing a bit of a crazy idea out there and waiting for people to reply, or asking a question, which is the next point on the list. Lots of options, but anything that's going to get people talking and not always agreeing with you. Sometimes they might add their own 2 cents and go, hey, actually, I see it a different way. Here's my opinion. And going back and forth and engaging in those conversations. Opinions. People love to share their opinions everywhere, and Twitter is no different. And often people come along and go, hey, I share that opinion. I've never really thought about it till now, but yeah, I'm on the same page with you. Videos are another one, and it's up to you if you do video content. I primarily do text content, but videos do get engagement as well. Usually they're shorter style videos, though, not long ones. So things that are more like the length of a reel, or maybe up to 5 minutes in some cases, but not too long. Now, last but not least is data. People like pieces of data or facts that they can reshare with their networks that are summarized in one single tweet. So if you have any kind of data or tip or something that's going to make people think and gives them an idea in just one tweet, perfect for Twitter. So as I mentioned, there are some big brands who do Twitter really well, and they use a lot of humor on Twitter. And because they're bigger brands, often they're doing it for brand awareness as well, because they're not always necessarily selling. They're reminding people that they exist and that they should buy their products. Now, over on the left-hand side is an ad for Weetabix, which is the UK version of Weet-Bix. And this went viral. It got mentioned in Parliament, I believe. It was in the news. There were tons of people in the conversation. So the police were there. In the comments, the UK police mentioned that was a total crime, that no one should ring the emergency line because they can't do anything about it. There were different brands tweeting about how it shouldn't be done and relating it to their own brand. And there were so many fun engagements on this post. As you can see, it had 36,000 retweets and 68,000 quote tweets, which means a lot of people had an opinion on putting your baked beans with your Weetabix for breakfast, and most of them disagreed. Now, Old Spice, well, it basically went, which bar's longer? We're going to grab a poll. We're not going to get anything too in-depth. We're just going to ask which one. And they got quite a bit of engagement. They had 9,700 people trying to guess which one would be longer. Of course, that's funny because of the industry they're in. Now, Moon Pie, well, they are a unique case. They tweet in a way that reminds me of a 12-year-old boy. So they make a lot of funny tweets and do a lot of conversations and engagements on their Twitter. They're a well-known ice cream brand over in the US. And yeah, some of that stuff just really 12-year-old boy, but it works, and they know their target audience. They know who likes to eat their products, and they tweet accordingly. So quick look at a couple of tweets that work and the type of styles. Over on the left, looking at the data and simply laughing. Well, anyone who does any kind of research, they're academic, or even someone in analytics, say you're a marketing manager who works with analytics, or say you're in sales and you see conversions, often you look at the data and you simply laugh because you're so amazed at how bad it is, or how good it is, or how surprising it is. So this type of tweet can relate to so many different industries and people, which is why it had 55,000 likes on it. So it really is one of those all-inclusive tweets that gets people talking. Over in the middle here is a quite in-depth quote around research when it comes to agriculture. Now, this was actually part of a conversation. Someone had tweeted something else, and there were discussions in the comments about how accurate it was, and this person had added new research, including a link and a summary of the research and some pictures. So the great thing about this is anyone seeing that can treat it as a standalone tweet. They don't need to see the conversation to appreciate the value of this tweet. So you can see below 22 retweets and 6 quote tweets, which means people were going, hey, this really summarizes something new. I'm going to share it with my own audiences. Now, over on the left is a quote from a journalist. Now, she said, all 3 routes into the city now flooded shut. I won't be able to present on ABC News tonight. So she was down in Sydney during the floods back in March. And she has 444 retweets. So people reading that and seeing it as a way of her talking about the news as it's happening to her personally and giving some insight into the type of flooding that was down in Sydney at the time. And because it was sent in real time. It meant people could share it in real time and share that news out about the state of Sydney at the time. So as you can see, these are all different ways you can engage with Twitter, but they're all simple, they're relatable, they're relevant to the industries they're in, and they're really just getting people engaged in the right ways. So, question I get quite a lot, how often should you tweet? Time on Twitter. Well, this is one to keep in mind. The average person, even the ones who love Twitter, only spend about 20 minutes per day on the platform. I think one of the reasons for that is you can log in and you can get an entire overview of all your interests in just a few minutes. You scroll through your Twitter feed and you see a tweet from someone in that industry or a tweet from that industry or a trending topic, and you can basically figure out what's going on in the world, or your world at least, in just a few minutes. And then you might engage in a few conversations and you're done for the day. And that's fine. That's how many people use it. And I think that also is something that is why people love it. You don't have to spend all day there, and you don't have the same addiction as some other platforms. Sure, I can and have spent 6 hours straight on Twitter, but usually when a live event or a big trend is happening, say there are floods or fires happening and they're relevant, well, in that case, you might want to be on there for hours tracking the conversations in real time. But if you're just there to get a summary of what's going on in a particular area, it's a great place to be. Now, it looks like someone has asked if anyone has lost sound. So we have a few participants here. If you do have problems with sound, do pop it into the chat and let me know. So tweets per day. As I was saying, 20 minutes a day is how often people pop onto the platform. And the thing about that is it's important to make sure you engage regularly so people see you. The algorithms will float things to the top of the feed, even that are older tweets. If they think you may have missed out, they'll actually say, here are some things you missed since you logged into Twitter last. And they'll show you things based on accounts you engage with. Now, on average, 5 or more tweets per day lead to the greatest engagement and growth. So the reason for this is because, again, people only log in for a short time, so tweeting at different times of day is an opportunity to get their attention and interest. Now, these can be original tweets though, because sometimes you've got your own great thoughts you want to share, but it can also just be replying to conversations. Don't think you need to be original all the time. You can absolutely just add your 2 cents to someone else's originality and just go, hey, here's my opinion, here's my thoughts, here's some other research. So don't feel that you need to go and come up with 5 or more amazing thoughts every day. That said, you can absolutely do less. If Twitter isn't where your ideal customer is hanging out, you might only do a few tweets a week and you just want that brand presence there instead. So it really comes down to how fast and how engaged you want your Twitter to be and grow and engage with people. So on that topic, how do you grow your following and reach? Well, I wish there was a magic formula, but there's 3 things that I found have helped me in the past. Conversations. Again, those conversations are so important. You add an interesting thought to someone else's conversation and you can get huge engagement in that. So look for influencers in your particular niche or industry and see what they're saying and add your own thoughts to it and become part of the group of people and that community. And you'll often get them following you and engaging with you if they think your thought is worth thinking about. Another one, and one that I find is quite underutilized, is lists. Now, the reason I love lists is because it's a way of creating a newsfeed around multiple different topics you like individually. So I don't know, I think I follow like 25,000 people on Twitter, and that's a lot of different topics in my feed. The great thing about having a list is I can divide those people into different topics. Here is one of my Australian farmers list, for instance. I have 124 farmers that are on this list. So if I look at that list, I just see tweets from farmers and agricultural companies, and it just makes it easier to go, here's what I want to look at today in relation to some of my clients or a particular topic I'm interested in, and then you're not overwhelmed with tons of other information. As you can see, it also has 76 followers. So people who get added to a list, they get notified you added them, and often they'll follow you and engage with you because they go, hey, you're interested in me. I'm going to go and show my interest in you, check you out, maybe engage with your content as well. So it is a good way to get people engaging with you, and also a good way to create a customized newsfeed for yourself. Last but not least is following. Now, there are lots of bad ways to follow, and you've probably experienced it yourself. Follower churn, it's known as follower churn, is where you follow tons of people and then you unfollow anyone who doesn't follow you back, and then you do it all again. And it can work, but it kind of can piss off people, and it can also trigger the platforms to actually block you or suspend you if you do it too much. Alternatively, I recommend carefully and in a targeted way following people who have similar interests to you, who are in the right niche or right industry, and engaging with them instead. So absolutely follow people. Twitter is one of those platforms where people follow hundreds or thousands of people. As I said, I follow something like 25,000 and about 50,000 follow me. So you can follow people to have an interesting and engaging newsfeed where you can be part of the conversation. Just don't do it willy-nilly, and don't follow people who you really don't care about and you're just trying to have follow you back. So definitely engage with people in your industry and be careful about how you follow them. So I've covered quite a few topics in this introduction to Twitter, but I'm going to share a few final thoughts about some other things you can see or do on the platform. Few things that you should absolutely hopefully not do on Twitter, but surprising number of people do, and especially brands who kind of jump in and don't really understand how Twitter culture works. Avoid syndicating tweets from other platforms. So you know how you can make your Facebook page automatically share your post onto Twitter with a link? Don't do that. Twitter people don't want to click a link to Facebook. If they want to be on Facebook, they'd be on Facebook. So don't share a link from Instagram or Facebook or any other platform unless you're crafting the tweets for your Twitter followers, your Twitter niche, and really engaging with the platform thoughtfully. So don't just set something up and leave it for 10 years, because that'll never get you anywhere on Twitter. Don't use too many hashtags. As I said earlier, between 1 and 3 max. If you have a larger following, or if you're tweeting on a trending topic with trending keywords, you can sometimes just not use hashtags at all. In fact, I probably use hashtags in 10 to 20% of my posts. Now, don't be tone deaf or not know your audience. Again, as I mentioned earlier, there aren't the same privacy gatings as there are on other platforms. So what this means for you is if you accidentally have your tweet in front of the wrong person, and it's one that is unintentionally or intentionally offensive, you are not going to make yourself or your brand look good, and there's nothing stopping hundreds or thousands of people seeing that tweet. Don't share too many links. Like most social media platforms, they want you to stay on the platform, and the users generally want to keep engaging on the platform. They don't want to click on something to another site. If they want to do that, they'd be on that other site already. So unless you've got something where you can share a link and add your own thoughts and commentary, I'd probably avoid it. That said, there's no reason you can't do that now and then. Just do take care and make sure that you're not sharing something with the intention of, hey, go click this link. Really add those thoughts and opinions that you have yourself on the topic. And last but not least, don't only retweet other people. This is a pet peeve of mine. If I follow you on Twitter, I want to hear your thoughts, your opinions, your tips, your research, your findings. And if you're continually resharing other people's content, well, I don't know much about you. I don't get to hear what you've got to say. So absolutely reshare content from other people you respect or find interesting or agree with the thoughts of. But you can do it as a quote tweet, which I'll show you in a minute. Or you can just do it to a certain ratio. Maybe every time you've posted 4 of your own thoughts as tweets, maybe then you can do a retweet. So people following you, they want to hear what you've got to think, so give them that. And over on the right, here's an example of BMW not thinking about their audience before they tweeted, especially since there are a lot of people in the sustainability community. Question was, what do you think is the best way to get around town and still do our part to protect our environment? It's a World Environment Day. My super sustainable BMW only got 5.4% of the vote. Everyone else said public transport. I don't think that ended up where BMW wanted it to end up. Now, a few Twitter tips. Number 1, you can retweet your own tweets and then untweet them. Now, that's essentially like sharing something, then unsharing it. So people in your feed who missed it earlier can see it again, or can see it for the first time, I mean. And the reason that's great is because, as I mentioned, the average Twitter user only spends 20 minutes a day on the platform. So if that 20 minutes is first thing in the morning, they won't have seen your night tweet. But you don't want to be tweeting every couple of hours just to get everyone's attention across all the different time slots. No, what you can do is you have a great tweet, but you want to share it with the audience who is online now. You can use the retweet button to reshare it with your audience and get their attention when they are online. So instead of writing content or writing content in a new way, just grab what you've got and reshare it again and again at different time slots. Works well. Don't engage if you can't take the heat. As I've mentioned a few times, Twitter can be controversial, so make sure you do take care if you're diving into anything where there's arguments going on. Use videos and GIFs as well as text. GIFs in particular are very popular as reactions in conversations, and people on Twitter love utilizing them. Now, last but definitely not least, retweet with comment to add your voice. Now, over on the right-hand side is an example I found of this, and it's referencing psychology and harm in therapy. And as you can see, there's a tweet there from Jennifer Scott asking, you don't need to share who was your worst therapist, but what bad habits made you terminate therapy? Now, if you're a psychologist, this is a really interesting question. You could read through the thread, maybe get some ideas for your own content as well. But instead of just replying to the conversation or just retweeting it to her audience, Erin Stevens at the top there has actually retweeted it with a comment. So she said, essentially, with retweeting with comment, that she found this an interesting topic, but she's sharing it with her own audience with her own thoughts. So instead of, as I said earlier, retweeting some other people's content, you can retweet it in such a way you add your own 2 cents to it. So you're still engaging your audience with your thoughts while sharing someone else's as well. So when you do click that retweet with comment button, it gives you the opportunity to add your thoughts above. So that is probably one of my favorite ways to retweet, because often when you're retweeting, you do have reasons that you want to share that with your audience. So we've come to the end of the Twitter webinar. Now, if you're not already involved in the Business Station program, I'm one of the digital advisors based in Toowoomba, and the program offers digital business mentorship for just $44 for 7 hours. Now, that covers a wide range of things in the digital realm, including social media and digital marketing, online security and data privacy, websites, selling online, and using business software, whether it's something with HR management or it's something to do with accounting software. We've probably got someone who can assist you. So it is a very good deal for $44, 7 hours, federally funded, and you can find out more at businessstation.com.au. So that does bring us to the end of the session. If you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, or you can have a chat with me live on here as well. I will end the recording now, but if you are watching along later, feel free to reach out on social media if you want any clarification or have any questions about your Twitter account. Thank you to everyone who attended. Have a good afternoon.